Hello Year 11, this is Mr. Walter speaking and I'm going to be guiding you through question 3 on the migration paper today. As you know, question 3 is 8 marks and it is one of 4 questions on the migration paper. The question template will look something like one of these. Explain 2 ways in which migration to Britain in and migration to Britain after was similar. Or explain 2 ways in which the impact of migration to Britain in and the impact of migration to Britain after was similar. Or again, explain 2 ways in which the expansion to and expansion to were similar. So as you can see in the first one, it talks about migration to Britain. So it's about the movement of people into Britain only. Second one is about the impact of that migration. So it's only about the impact after they arrived. And the third one is nothing to do with people moving to Britain. It's about Britain moving outwards and around the world. So being really clear on the language of the question is going to be important to this question. Some more specific examples would be this. Explain 2 ways in which migration to Britain in the 19th century and migration to Britain after 1945 were similar. So you'd be comparing the 1800s to post-1945. However, you might have something like, explain 2 ways in which the impact of migration to Britain by the Jewish and the impact of migration to Britain by the Huguenots was similar. Or explain 2 ways in which the Angevin expansion in France and the British expansion in America were similar. So, pause the video, have a go, start creating your own questions. Okay, using the other templates just to get yourself and your brain in gear. I'm going to move the video on though. So if we take this as our one question to kind of unpack a little bit, decode. Explain 2 ways in which the Irish migration to Britain and the Huguenot migration to Britain were similar. First thing I've spotted says 2 ways, so I must come up with 2 different similarities. Second thing says to Britain. That means I need to be thinking about the movement of people in, not out. So that's a really clear part of this question. Second, it gives me 2 groups, or thirdly even, the Irish and the Huguenot. So I must focus on the Irish and the Huguenots. I don't need to talk about any others, and I won't be rewarded for talking about any of the others. Finally, I forgot to put it in bold, but it says similar. It does not say differences, it does not say similarities and differences. It is solely about similarities. And sort of some cue words to help you think about that would be our CEO, cause, event, outcome. Is there anything that was similar in the reasons for the Huguenots and Irish to move to Britain, in the events when they arrived, or in the outcomes of their migration? If I was to break this down a little bit and think about this question itself, well, I'll start with causes. Why did the Huguenots move? Well, that was mainly because of religious persecution, because they were Protestant. Yet the Irish, no, that was more economic reasons, because they left because of the potato blight and poverty. So actually, not really that similar. So I'm not going to use causes. But what about when they arrived? Well, actually, both faced persecution, discrimination, because of their nationality and where they came from. So actually that is a good similarity. Likewise, some of the outcomes of them in Britain was economic prosperity. The Irish acted as navvies and built much of their railways and railroads, whereas the Huguenots helped develop new industries like the paper-making industry. So a really clear similarity is the sort of economic opportunities both brought. Also, in the longer term, both groups sort of assimilated into British culture. You had a mix and a merging of the two, and that still has sort of an impact today. So that's another clear similarity. And if we're thinking about structuring our answer here in our two ways, we've got to really think of one way being about any similarity between their events, anything that was similar that both of them experienced or happened. But the second way, we want to be a bit more complex. And to do that, we need to link it to one of our themes of the course. For example, economic resources, religion, war, etc. Or maybe the development of empires. And that means paragraph 1 looks potentially a little bit like this, and paragraph 2 might look a little bit like this. In both, the point sentence must link back to the question, using the term similarity, using the key people or groups involved. Both paragraphs must have really clear, specific examples that prove the similarity. And if you do that, you will do really well on this question. If we look at a rough mark scheme, here what is one? We'll start at the bottom. Basics of 1 to 2 marks. You might have identified a relevant similarity, but that is about all you've done, with no or very little factual knowledge. If you were to get 3 or 4, you might have explained one similarity really well, using clear factual knowledge, but you've only done 1. Or you might have described a couple reasonably well. But to get 5 to 6 marks, which is really good, you need to have explained 2 similarities, using a range of knowledge that is really clear. But to get 7 or 8, you must have a range of detailed and accurate knowledge, so really specific. You must explain 2 similarities like before, but they must show the complexities or the historical context. And by that, we mean link into the key themes that have gone on throughout this period of time. So what does that look like in an actual answer? I've given you a completely different question this time, so that you can kind of see it in different ways. This question is, explain 2 ways the 100 Years' War and the American War of Independence were similar. Again, if you haven't studied some of these topics yet, don't worry, you will over time, but it's a good way of thinking about structure and quality of writing. I want you to read, pause the video, read, and just wait until you've finished. I'm going to keep talking though. Here's our little key code. Red is keywords from the question. Black underlined is knowledge and understanding. Green, similarities. And purple, complex similarities. So let's look at first paragraph. Straight away, you've got the 2 key events from the question in the first sentence. You've got the word similar, and you've got the key similarity. They both lost. Then, really clear and specific knowledge from both events. Territory in Gascony, that's really specific. 13 American colonies, really specific again. In the second one, we go beyond just a similarity, but a complex similarity. They were both very important for the development of empire. England became united. They began to see themselves as English. Unity allowed Britain to start building a powerful empire. Really clear similarity that's fully explained. You've also got clear factual evidence to back up that point. So this would be getting 7 to 8 marks here. Really, really good. And that is what you should be aiming for when you go to write this question. Good luck and practice over and over again.